Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Steltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last several years, I've been focusing my attention on les filles du roi, or king's daughters. This series is called Les filles mariées, which are the marriageable girls who came before les filles du roi. I have just been entranced by these amazing women who sometimes were truly the very pioneers of New France. There are about 262 of them. Today we're going to be doing number 49. So we've come a long way, but we've got such a long way to go. Before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify, all of those buttons there. And the next few ways are ways to help the channel itself grow. We have Ko-fi and Patreon, which are external platforms that you can contribute to. And we also have my PayPal button on my Have Roots Will Travel website. All of those help the channel grow and continue to spread the information that I am giving out. So thank you to those of you who have supported me thus far. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. Let's get started and get to know our filles mariées of this episode. So les filles mariées came between 1634 and 1662. These are the ladies that came one at a time, sometimes several at a time, but they certainly were not government sponsored, and they certainly did not carry with them a dowry. They were intent on getting married, and they needed to be able to prove that they were, number one, of marriageable age, and there were some criteria involved. But essentially, these filles mariées are the founding, I call them the founding grandmothers of Quebec, whereas the filles du roi are the founding mothers in my own little head. Because the filles mariées came so far, 1634, think about where New France was. They had just regained its ownership of New France from Britain, who had taken it over. And there was, Trois-Rivières was founded in 1634. So this was the very early beginnings. There was probably a couple of hundred people living at New France at that time, if that many. So let's get to know our filles mariées of this episode. So this episode, number 49, is Marie Taupier. She was a viewer request, and guess what? When I looked her up, she was also one of mine. So this is my grandmama. Let's get to know Marie a little bit better. Marie was born in 1636 in a commune called Luçon in France. Luçon can be found in the Pays de la Loire, and inside the Pays de la Loire region, she is from the Vendée département. Her parents were Joseph Taupier and Jeanne Drapon. Now, it has about 10,000 people currently living there now. Luçon, once a Roman town known as Lusonius, derived its name from the Latin term for the northern pike Lucius. This fish still graces the town's coat of arms. The town held a significant position on the Roman road from Les Sables d'Olonne to Niort and was a bustling seaport during the Roman period. And during the Dark Ages, St. Philbert founded a monastery here. Despite being sacked by the Normans in 846 and plundered by the Vikings in 853, Luçon persevered. In the Middle Ages, as the seas receded, Luçon found itself inland. However, thanks to a canal, it maintained a port connected to the Atlantic and remained an important commercial center. In 1317, Luçon ascended to spiritual prominence when Pope John XXII established the seat of the Diocese of Luçon here. Today, the town is perhaps best known for its association with Armand Jean Duplessis, or Cardinal Richelieu, as he became famous for. Before serving as a minister to Louis XIII, Richelieu was the Bishop of Luçon. He spearheaded the rebuilding of much of the town after it was ravaged during the French Wars of Religion. This included restoring the magnificent Cathedral of Notre Dame, whose towering 85-meter spire dominates the countryside for miles around. The cathedral houses a church organ donated by Napoleon III, and a statue of Richelieu stands proudly outside. Now, this is what we're talking about when we look at where she is from. You can see how beautiful and how historic this place is. And you can even see La Rue d'Or. And La Rue d'Or is right here. And we have the church where she would have been baptized. And obviously, she came from a very bustling center. We don't know much about the journey that Marie was on. All we know is that she arrived in New France in 1661. I have no idea if her parents were still alive or not. All we know is she took the courage to come to New France and build a new life. The groom that she selected and who selected her, his name, Jacques Delougris, was born 1636 in La Rochelle, France. His parents were Nicolas Delougris and Suzanne Mercier. La Rochelle was founded during the 10th century and became an important harbor in the 12th. Until the 15th century, La Rochelle was to be the largest French harbor on the Atlantic coast, dealing mainly in wine and salt and cheese. The name Rupella was first recorded in 961, which meant Little Rock. La Rochelle has one of the richest histories of all the towns of France, from its beginnings as an area where the Knights of Templar had their strongest base. Eleanor of Aquitaine, married Henry Plantagenet in 1152, who would become King of England as Henry II in 1154, and then thus put La Rochelle under Plantagenet rule until Louis VIII captured it in the 1224 siege of La Rochelle. During the Plantagenet control of the city in 1185, Henry II had the Vauclair Castle built, which you can still see, remains of which are still at the Place de Verdun at La Rochelle. From 1568, La Rochelle became a center for the Huguenots. It was in La Rochelle that the Protestant Revolution occurred and created the uprising that would become known as the Siege of La Rochelle. Throughout the 1600s, the Huguenots were expelled from La Rochelle. Now, the reason why this is particularly interesting and important for Jacques is that he was baptized in the Protestant Church of Sainte Marguerite that you see there. We also know that once he arrived in New France by 1660, he was baptized and confirmed in the Catholic faith. So he would have, remember, in order to live in New France, you would have had to convert to Catholicism. So that is what he did. On October 13th, 1661, they were married, Jacques and Marie, at Château Richer. Let's see where they ended up. They would settle on Ile d'Orléans, which is located on the St. Lawrence River east of downtown Quebec City. The island was one of the very first parts of the province to be colonized by the French, and a large percentage of French Canadians, can trace their ancestry to the early residents of this island. The island has been described as the microcosm of traditional Quebec and as the birthplace of Francophones in North America. I also want to make sure that you know that it wasn't always called Ile d'Orléans. It was at certain points known as Grande Ile, Sainte-Marie, Saint-Laurent. And it's important to know in case you come across information and you're like, well, I thought they were on the island. And yes, this is also known as that. It was actually changed to Ile d'Orléans in honor of the second son of King Francis I. He was the Duke of Orléans, Henri II. And that is why we call it the Ile d'Orléans. Now, I want you to draw your attention to the middle of this PowerPoint because you can see that it has subdivided the island into 6 different parts. So at the very tip on the left hand, we have Sainte-Patronille, then we have Saint-Pierre, Sainte-Famille, Saint-François, Saint-Jean, Saint-Laurent. It's very important that you know what part of the island your family emanates from, because that's what's going to determine where they would have been buried, where some of the records are, that sort of thing. It's a fairly small island, but it's a big one all the same. In the 1667 census, we have Jacques, 29 years old, Marie, 30. Jacques was 5, they have a 5-year-old son, and Marianne was 3 years old. And they own, at that point, which is about 2 to 3 acres of land. I want to let you know that I was at Ile d'Orléans this past summer, and it was truly a remarkable, incredible moment to stand there when my forebears had stood. I urge you all to go there one time just to see the monuments, to see everything as it really tells you the story of Quebec in many respects. It's an incredible place to go. Go on to have 9 children. Jacques would marry Catherine Gendreau and have 9 children, 4 of whom made it to adulthood. Pierre would die in infancy. Marianne would marry Gilles Gadieu and have 6 children, 4 of whom would make it to adulthood. François would die in infancy. Marie-Marthe married Pierre Allard and had 4 children, all of whom made it. Mathurin married Jean Plante and had 2 children, both of whom made it. There was an unnamed child, died in infancy in 1672. We have Angélique, who married Pierre Duguay and had 4 children, all of whom made it. And finally, we have Joseph, who died in infancy. This is the 1681 census that is on the top of your screen. We have Jacques listed as 50. Marie is 50. Their children, Jacques, Marie, Marthe, Mathurin, and Angélique. They have 1 gun. They have 4 bêtes, which is 4 goats. And they have 13 arpents. So they've increased their, in about 14 years, they've increased their value of their land to 13 arpents, which is about, I would say, 11 acres of land. 10 to 11. Jacques would pass away first at the young age of 51. He and Marie would have been married 26 years by then. Marie would live on 16 years without him. She did not remarry, and she died at the age of 67. By 1729, she and Jacques would have 89 descendants, and they are both buried at the Sainte-Famille Cemetery. Remember when I talked about standing in front of that memorial? That is what I'm talking about. Just knowing that your family played a part is an incredible moment. And here we have, they are listed, Jacques Delegris, originaire de La Rochelle, and he married a Marie Petit. Now we know that it's Marie Taupier, so they got the last name wrong, and they established themselves at Sainte-Famille as of 1664. That's what that means. Some of the amazing resources I use to be able to do the work I do, a lot of it comes from the Généalogie Québec, or the actual, records. And WikiTree helps me kind of see where other genealogists have gone before. I really recommend that you give WikiTree a try to really have a look at your descendancy and see what other researchers are doing. Very, very important to collaborate. These 4 in a group here, I just want to draw your attention. These are the 4 heritage sites that I am either a member of or have been. All of them are fabulous. And depending on your particular focus, you need to look at all of them and see what would be the best fit for you. 1, 2, 3, or 4, all of them. And it's just a question that we all want to join every association. Just depends what you're working on at that particular year, So have a look. I posted the links for you to see what you might want to look at. And so we come to the end of episode 49, Marie Taupier. She came to New France and built a life with a man who himself was struggling with having to leave a very, I would imagine, La Rochelle at that time was very war-torn, and build a very peaceful life at Ile d'Orléans. I can imagine what it was like for them. They kept growing and building a life. There was no drama. There was no extreme tragedies either way. There was the normal ebb and flow of life. Back then, losing a child, gaining another, that was all part of the plan, if you will. And Marie was not only a very, very strong woman to come across on her own and build a life for herself, but she managed to leave us with descendants, of which I am very proud to be one of them. So thank you, Grandmama Marie. I really, really am thankful that you came and you stayed, you endured, and you proved to us what a founding grandmother really is all about. Thank you, Grandmama. And I also want to say thank you to my patrons and supporters, all of you. The list keeps growing each time I record another set of videos. So thank you so much for all of you who keep sending me notes and encouraging me. I really, really appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on episode 50 of Les Filles à Marier. Until then, au revoir.